So this is lesson 4-1. We are writing equations in slope-intercept form. So if you want to write that down, it's right here at the top. Writing equations in slope-intercept form. This is the beginning of chapter 4, so 4-1. So the first part, we're looking at using slope and y-intercepts to write an equation. This first part should be super easy for us because it's kind of more of a review, because we're looking at the y equals mx plus b form, and we've already been looking at that, so we're already familiar with it. So on A, it just says, write an equation with the given slope and y-intercept. Slope is -3, y-intercept is 1/2. Well, using this form, we're literally just plugging it in, and that's our answer. So for slope of -3, that's our m. Y-intercept is your b. So that would be y equals -3x plus 1/2. Bam, you're done. Like, that's literally all they're asking on that. So on the second example, a slope of 0, y-intercept of -2. So again, if I plug 0 in for m, well, 0 times x is 0. It cancels. And then this one, it's plus -2, which becomes -2. So this one came out to y equals -2 because the other stuff canceled. We're going to look at several examples before you do any problems today. You will do like all of your problems at the end of the video. It's going to be a little different. Let me scroll down. Okay, yeah. So let me erase that. Okay, so this next example, now we're going to use a graph to write an equation. We're still looking at that same form. You really need to get familiar with the name of it, slope-intercept form, because we're going to be looking at other forms later in this chapter. So slope-intercept form is the one that's y equals mx plus b. So we have a graph here. They went ahead and told us 2 points on the graph. Those aren't the only 2 points, or the only points, but those are just 2 that they told us. So when we're doing y equals mx plus b form, we can go ahead and find our slope with those 2 points. If we remember, this is the formula for just slope. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, talking about your points. And remember, it doesn't matter. I could say this is x1, y1, or this one. It doesn't matter. So for example, A, they said that this one was x1, y1. This one was x2, y2. So y2 minus y1, so 3 minus -3, over x2 minus x1. So 4 minus 0. So when you do that, this becomes plus 6 over 4. And you can simplify it to 3 over 2 and leave it like this. Remember, don't make it a mixed number. You don't want 1 and 1/2. So now we have our slope. So for the mx plus b form, we have the 3/2 x. Now on the plus b, remember that is where it crosses the y-axis. They gave us that point. It crosses it at -3. So instead of plus -3, you would say minus. So there is your equation. Okay, example B is the same type of problem. If you go ahead and look at this picture from left to right, it is going down. So we already know when we plug into this formula to get our slope, we should get a negative answer. So we choose a point to be x1, y1, move that, and we plug them in. So y1 minus y2, -1 minus 2, over x2 minus x1. I maybe said that first part wrong with the y's, but you get it. Over 4 minus 0. So -1 minus 2 more is -3. 4 minus 0 is 4. So -3/4. Okay, then we go back. It crosses the y-axis. That'll go away at 2. So we have y equals -3/4 x plus 2. Okay, I hope y'all are still doing good, because so far it's kind of review stuff that we've already looked at. Let me erase all this. I wish there was an easier way to erase it all. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at another example. So if we look at example 3, using points to write an equation. Okay, so they just say write an equation of the line, but it passes through these 2 points. That's all they're going to give you. Well, we know how to find slope out of 2 points. And now if you look, this one is 0, -1. That is the point where it crosses the y-axis. So that is your y-intercept. So they've given us all that we need. So we plug it into the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then we already have our y-intercept. So we found a slope of -2 on this first one. And so mx plus b form, that slope-intercept form, because you are plugging in a slope and an intercept, that's where it gets its name. So we have y equals negative 2x minus 1. That's all you're doing on that one. It's pretty similar to the last one. It's just instead of a graph, they only give you the points. On B, if we notice, this is 0, negative 5, so that is my y-intercept. We plug it into the slope formula to get our slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So negative 5 minus negative 5, that becomes plus. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. 8 minus 0 is 8, but anything, remember you can have 0 on top. 0 divided by 8 is just 0. So it has a slope of 0. So when we're plugging it into that y equals mx plus b form, we have 0 times x. Well, that cancels, and we have minus 5 because our y-intercept up here. So that cancels, and we're just left with y equals negative 5. That's how they got that. Okay, we're going to look at, I believe, example 4. I can't remember if this chapter has 4 or 5. This lesson has 4 or 5 examples. But now we're going to look at writing a linear function instead of an equation. It works the same way. So writing a linear function. So they say write a function f with the values f of 0 equals 10 and f of 6 equals 34. Well, we know anytime we see f of x, we know that's a function, but that's just another way to write y. In an equation, we see y. In a function, we see f of x. Those mean the same thing. Okay, so when it says f of 0 equals 10, if you remember, if you were to solve f of 0, that means you're plugging 0 in for x. So these are points, and that's the answer you get when you solve. So that's the point 0, 10. And this is also a point. That would be the point 6, 34. Okay, so they gave us 2 points, just like in the previous example. We take those 2 points, and we plug them into that slope formula to figure out our slope. When we do that, we get 4. Then we go back. They gave us our y-intercept right here. The point 0, 10 is our y-intercept. So y equals mx plus b form. We have y equals 4x plus 10. Now, the only reason that's not our answer is they said write a linear function using f, a function. So you just have to go back, replace this y with f of x. Now it's a function. Bam. Okay, so that's the only difference, is instead of y, it's f of x. That's literally the only thing different. We still solve it the same, everything else. Okay, so that was the last example. So what I'm going to have you do now, there's going to be 6 problems. I'm going to have you do all of them, because it's one of each type of those. And then I will go over them with you. But these are so easy. I want you to really try to do these on your own first, okay, guys? Did it stop? Okay, these first 2 problems are super easy. 1 and 2. 1, slope of 7, y-intercept of 2. Write an equation of the line. So y equals mx plus b. Y equals my slope is 7 plus my y-intercept is 2. On number 2, we have y equals mx plus b, but it's a negative 1, so minus 1. Okay, on number 3, we're writing the equation of the line, and they give you those 2 points, okay? This one was 0, 1, and this one was 4, 3. Okay, well, there's 2 ways we can find slope. We can plug it into the slope formula with those 2 points, or you can look at the graph. The picture of the graph is easier than this one, but you count from one point to the other. It goes up 2, and to the right, 4. 2 over 4 simplifies to 1/2. Okay, if we do it the other way, we'll do it just to double check, or to see if you did it this way. We have our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 3 minus 1 is 2, 4 minus 0 is 4, and that equals 1/2. That's just our slope. So we have y equals mx plus b. It crosses the y-axis at 1. Okay. Then number 4 is the same way. We can count. On this one, just looking at the picture, it goes down from left to right, so we know it's negative. So from this point to this one, it goes down 2 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 2/5 is your slope. Or again, you can plug it into your slope formula. They told us this was the point 0, -1. This one was 5, -3. So I have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That becomes plus. -3 plus 1 is -2, so -2/5. So I have y equals -2/5 x, because we're doing y equals mx plus b form, plus, if I go back to see where it crosses the y-axis, it's at -1, so instead of saying plus -1, we say -1. Okay, number 5. They said, write an equation of the line that passes through these 2 points. So again, we have to find our slope. This is, remember, your x1, y1, x2, y2. It's always, I'm going to rewrite it even though we've already been doing it, just so you see it again. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So 10 minus -2 over 4 minus 0. That becomes plus 12 over 4. Well, 12 divided by 4 is 3. You could say 3 over 1. Doesn't matter, but we're writing it in slope-intercept form, so y equals mx plus b form. My slope is 3 plus b. They gave us the point where x is 0 is where it crosses the y-axis, but it's a -2, so -2. Okay, I know we have one more problem. Let me erase some of this. The last one, I just didn't have room to write it. It says, write a linear function with the values g of 0 equals 9 and g of 8 equals 7. Okay, remember, even though it's talking about a function, so instead of saying y equals, they told us to use g, we'll say g of x equals, means the same thing. They gave me g of 0 equals 9 and g of 8 equals 7. Those are points. That's the point 0, 9, because that's where we plug in for x. That's what you get when you solve it. And this is the point 8, 7. So find your slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 7 minus 9 is -2. 8 minus 0 is 8. I can simplify that to -1/4. And if we look, they gave us our y-intercept where it crosses the y-axis. So I'm going to have g of x, because they said a function, not an equation, equals -1/4 x plus 9. So basically it's the same thing, we just don't have y equals. It's still mx plus b form.